My name is Walter El Nagar. I'm Italian, almost 41, few days. I'm a chef by inner call. I arrived in Geneva 4 years ago to open an hotel, the Ritz-Carlton, and in this hotel the gastro restaurant, the Fiske Bar. And then I got into a crisis about my profession. I've always been cooking for a rich elite. And then I decided to quit the hotel and to reshuffle a bit my priority, professional priority, and to align them with my life priorities, so that there was not incoherence in between the two. And then, thinking about it, we started to do a pop-up with other chefs in a soup kitchen here in Geneva, close to the train station. It's called Jardin de Montbriat. We did 2-3 times. We discovered that in Geneva basically is just like any other city, and the amount of Ferraris and Bentley, it's exactly the same amount of poor people that there is around. And so we decided to go deeper into this idea, and from a pop-up we transitioned into a small chef table restaurant in Ovive that was called the 5e Jour. And the main concept behind was to have 4 days per week this top of the food chain chef table, so no menu, only for reservation, only local product, only monogrape wine. The radius of ingredients was only 100 kilometers. All of this, which didn't make the food much better, but at least we tried to do as most avant-garde as possible. And then the 5th day, hence the name, the 5e Jour, was the same offer, but for free for homeless. It was quite difficult to manage because it was a very small place, only 12 seats, with very small resources. That's so true that the food that Genox so generously donated to Refettorio costs exactly as the whole kitchen at my ex-restaurant. Just to give you the perception. The adventure lasts until February 2020, when we got into a disagreement with my private investor. It was a private company, of course. And the disagreement was about the nature itself of what we were doing, because it was a private company with a private investor, with private investor expectation on return on capital invested. Totally okay. But what we were doing in part was charity or social inclusion. And so obviously, as you can imagine, that cannot stand forever. And so the disagreement at one point came up, and instead of just killing the whole idea, I decided just to kill the restaurant. So I closed the restaurant, and following the advice of a good friend, Kelsey, I decided to create a foundation, which is nothing else than a non-profit. Foundation sounds very amazingly fancy, but it really is just a non-profit. It's a more serious version of an association. And I decided to do that so that we could keep alive the idea, which is very good. It doesn't make any money, but it's a very good idea. And to possibly go from a 12 seats restaurant to a bigger restaurant in order to receive more people and to have a bigger impact on the community. And then in March, COVID-19 became real. And so we had to postpone this restaurant opening indefinitely. But we started to do what we wish to do in a proper restaurant, again under the form of a pop-up. But this time with the participation of a lot of chefs from all over Geneva and from all over Switzerland. And so we got all together to cook for the people that was at the food line in this very town. And we did about 32,000 meals, which is not much compared to the scale of humanitarian associations. But it's also true the humanitarian association have no chefs and they do boiled rice with boiled beans. It's easy to make a million boiled rice with beans, boiled beans. We try to do something more earthwarming and more delicious as much as possible. All of us with our limitation. My limitation is that I'm Italian, so I cook all Italian. So we contain the number, but we try to increase the quality. And then, while doing, I'm doing like freestyle and waterfall. And then, while doing that, not really incredibly, we got a lot of support and we widened the portfolio of friends that we already built at Saint-Jour. And so we got in touch with Bottura and his foundation, Food for Soul, in order to, are you independent? My fridge, but you can wait, you can do like a gastro and then we put it up. So we got in touch with him because it's, okay, what we want to do, basically, it's a refettorio, but with the characteristic of being open to the public. So instead of being a forever in need of donation kind of situation, it's almost like a productive unit that generates its own revenue in order to cover its own budget. It sounds pretty similar, okay? So we got in touch with them, and incredibly enough, a year after getting in touch with them, it sounded completely crazy from the phone. Now we are having this interview in Refettorio Geneva. So the space is being designed by Antoine Muller of GMAA Bureau, with the help of Lucia Travaglini and Jacopo Mazzucchelli. It's a very big space. We didn't start looking for a space this big, but we start to look for some pious organization. First, the city of Geneva, to give us just a whatever, you know, just abandoned building in the city in order to transform it in a refettorio. But that's for the dream world. So no one gave us anything. So at the end, we found this ginormous spot in Charmilles, which is about 400 square meters, which is not free. By the way, we have to generate enough money to pay the rent. On the contrary of any other soup kitchen in town, which is free, and it doesn't matter if the food is bad, but whatever. This is like a cut. So it's a very wide space. It's very tall space. The central piece is the kitchen, which we realized with the collaboration of Genox. It's inspired by contemporary, I would say postmodern kitchen, because contemporary right now it's a bit of a different story. It's very open. There is no strict definition of the partie or the line. Everything can be interchanged. The design is a 3 main benches, and it recalls the design that is being implemented the first time at El Bulli, and then it's been perfected by Alinea, and then it's the most beautiful version you can see right now. It's a Noma. Okay, we are not in the same game at all, but we tried at least to get the inspiration from these gods of culinary world. Everything is stainless steel. It's very easy to clean. One part of our fight is to give back the life to the cooks, which usually is like the same old 15 hours a day dying, and the kitchen is to clean is a disaster because the chef really likes the grandmother stovetop, which is just terrible, especially to clean, but the chef never clean it. it's always usually it's a guy or a girl that is there. So we decided to go like exactly the opposite side of it, so that everything can be cleaned like in about 20-30 minutes. The space is divided in three main areas. One area is the kitchen that I just described. The other, it's the dining room with our beautiful table of the Turk Paradise from Fondazione Pistoletto. And then the third part it's a bit offset, and it's very beautiful, and it's like a kind of a food waste lab where we can process food waste from our partner Partage, and then we can transform it into an event space. There are homeless in Switzerland? Yes, there are homeless in Switzerland. The problem that I understood so far in Switzerland is perception. So the perception is that it must be a bank. It must be the place where people come to buy oil and tobacco and whatever it is the case, which is true. But the perception these people doing this kind of business, the perception they need to project is that there is no poverty whatsoever, which obviously you don't need me dressed as a chef to tell you that it's complete bullshit, because obviously it's not like that. There is a small part of the population which is in extreme poverty. Among this small part of the population, there are also Swiss people, and there is nothing wrong with that, unfortunately. There is no shame. And then there is a vast part of the population, especially the working population, which is just exactly the same situation of every other work population in Europe, which is precariousness. And precariousness is another form of poverty, which doesn't mean that you don't have money to buy water, but it means that you have to jump from a job to another, from a paycheck to another, and you have to avoid, or you have to dodge taxes, and you have to dodge anything that can destabilize your economical situation. Otherwise, you risk to fall into extreme poverty. Why Geneva? Why Geneva? Because Geneva is exactly the opposite of Los Angeles, where I used to live, and I lived there for 7 years. And there is a dramatically enormous homeless population, plus working poor, plus poor people, which makes up 90% of the people in Los Angeles, basically. And no one does anything at all for them, besides few small organizations, which are the diamond point of humanity, okay, in my opinion. But then the vast majority, especially administration, they don't do anything. They send the police to shoot them. Just YouTube it. On the contrary, in Geneva, there is immense, most beautiful social commitment from the authority themselves on any level, and society itself, which made my art like one bit more every minute, not because I'm about to have an heart attack, just for happiness, because it means that there is an opportunity to do things better. And so I decided to stay here to do this here. Of course, someone would say like, hey, why you didn't want to Calcutta? Fantastic, you know? And then someone in Calcutta would say like, hey, why you didn't want to Dar es Salaam? There is always like somewhere else to go. But when we decided to do it, I was here in Geneva. It's a very profitous place and environment to do it. And so I hope we're gonna give a good example for some other organization around the world to do the same. Because if it works here, it will work everywhere.